Yes. Yep. We gonna share some shit. Y'all gotta like this shit, and y'all share the shit too, please. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Why do you always have such extravagant backgrounds? Like, it's not realistic, She. You never live in a mountain. I can't even fucking imagine you climbing a mountain. Nah, that's a different. No, no, no. I ain't talking about hiking on a little ass hill. That's a mountain. Yeah, I ain't seen you hike the mountain since what? February of 2018. Every time you hike, you be getting, getting in arguments for 8 hours straight in the middle of the night. Yeah, I delete my app regularly. I go out of my way to delete my app. Fuck yeah, I do it probably 3, 4 times a week because you get sucked in. I refuse. I used to get like bad, it would mess up my mood for the day because I just got to deal with stupid people. You know what I would ask Sean King? Tell me what policies of Kamala that you like, that you decided to pretend like she wasn't that she was a progressive. What the hell's my dog doing?
Why do so many people forgive her? Like pretend that her record doesn't exist. Like I
'Cause
don't
she
get
has a
that.
pretty smile.
Like it's ridiculous. They're like, oh, she's so well spoken, and she's smart, and it's like, okay,
But she's not that smart.
no, she's not. She made up. she, she heard music before the album was ever
Yeah,
invented.
she's maybe clairvoyant,
She's
but she's not
she's
intelligent.
time travel. She travels time. All right, you ready?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How many people we got on? Okay, cool. Good stuff. Let me refresh this. All right, good stuff.
So,
So, what is going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. This is Progressive Primetime, and I am your host, Nico House. And say we're here with Fiorella as well. Craig is on a hiatus at the moment, gonna make that money. But
fast money.
we're gonna hold it down. We're gonna hold it down. We got a lot of shit to talk today.
We do.
Um, First thing we're gonna talk. Oh, there. Did we get? So they said no sound. There's no sound for fee.
Okay, great.
Is it fixed?
Okay, it's great.
Okay, they
It's
said it's
fixed.
fixed. We're good. We're
Yeah.
good. Okay, good. Good stuff. All right, sorry. So back to what I was saying. We gotta talk some shit today, y'all, because we all about correcting the record here, and Fiorella took some issue with Stacey Abrams and
Mm-hmm.
this idea that somehow Stacey Abrams is still progressive because she's black and so she's being propped up. That's basically the only reason she's being propped up is because she's black. And she was running against a Republican, and it was a big ordeal because Republicans cheated, and we know what's new. Republicans cheat,
Right.
and Democrats do too. But after that, while we were kind of all holding our breath to say, okay, so is Stacey Abrams going to take this momentum and continue to be progressive? Nope, nope, nope. She dropped the ball. And the most recent example of Stacey Abrams dropping the ball, Fiorella is going to describe for you right now. So what's up, Fiorella?
So this is actually a month-old article, but a lot of people didn't see it. And I know a lot of people on my Facebook, particularly, were pushing for her to be VP. A lot of California progressives were like, "Oh, she's awesome. Bernie would do great if he made her his VP choice." Blah 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 blah. She can get the South, but Stacey Abrams is actually not who we think she is. So there's a lot going on with her. The Hill has an entire article talking about how she defended Joe Biden. And she didn't just defend him, in a way to kind of be non compromising. She actually flat out said that we need to stand by Joe Biden. She said, we cannot have perfection as a litmus test. The responsibility of leaders is not to be perfect, but to be accountable. To say, I made a mistake, I understand it, and here's what I'm going to do to reform as I move forward. She said, I think we see Joe Biden doing that. I think the vice president has acknowledged the discomfort he's caused. He has created context for why that is his behavior, and he has confirmed that he will do something different going forward. I think that's what we should be looking for. We have to, as a people, be ready to forgive. But forgiveness does not mean you accept it unless that you see accountability. So,
yeah.
what do you think about that?
I have a question for you, Fee. Because I'm a busy man. I know you're busy too. So sometimes you catch things that I don't catch, and vice versa. When the hell has Biden ever said the words "I'm sorry"?
No, he hasn't said it at all. That's the thing.
There's
no
all.
accountability, number one.
Yeah, he hasn't even held himself accountable, let alone been like everything that he's done up until up until recently gave him a VP spot. So where is this accountability that she's talking about? I'm confused.
Yeah, there's no accountability. Not only that, she's literally minimizing everything that he has done, not just in regards to Lucy Flores and the recent accusations, but in regards to Anita Hill, in regards to the crime bill. There's been no accountability for the crime bill. In fact, he actually brags about how he's wrote the crime bill and how he doesn't regret it.
Calls it the Biden bill. He calls it the Biden bill. And what's even more interesting is that she says, oh, he's involved about these issues and he understands the discomfort. First of all, putting black people in jail and then literally giving states money to incentivize them to put them in jail is more than causing a little discomfort, first of all.
Yeah.
But second of all, a week ago, he said it didn't cause mass incarceration. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Whoever says that, it's not true. It didn't cause mass incarceration. How is that accountability or even acknowledging that you did anything wrong to begin with? That bill, $8.7 billion for private prisons, and then gave states additional money to put people in jail. It was worse than the 86 crime bill. It was flat out racist, and they knew it was racist. And that's probably the point.
And it just irks me because he has someone like Simone Sanders defending him on CNN. And we all seen the video. She couldn't even defend him. She couldn't even hold off to what he actually said because we have the receipts of what he said and then what he actually did and the results of the crime bill, as you said. And it really irks me how he uses these women of color, these black women, to elevate himself. He tokenizes them and they just become instruments of this neoliberal agenda that ends up hurting these very people.
Shit, it might very well be a neoconservative agenda at this point. And I think that it's also, it's pretty telling that Stacey Abrams, like, as a black woman, right? As a black woman from the South, you know better than anyone how much damage this man has done to the black community. And for him to have not said sorry, for him to have absolutely no self-accountability at all, and for you to go and pretend like he has, like stating it as a fact, in which she knows other people will just take her word for it because she has gained some clout in the progressive community, but more specifically in the black community, that is a nothing but, in my opinion, an absolute betrayal. Like, you're not a progressive at all.
It gets worse, Niko.
Uh-oh.
It gets so much worse.
What happened?
Everybody knows that she works for Center for American Progress under Neera Tanden, which is already bad. And then when she did the State of the Union speech, she started shifting to access to affordable care from Medicare for All. And that's when I stopped tuning in. But last year, The Intercepted a investigative piece, of course, Lee Fang, on how Stacey Abrams approved the GOP's gerrymandering effort. And there is now currently a lawsuit by Attorney General Eric Holder over the redistricting effort that the GOP did. And the Democrats were all like, oh, we didn't know that they were doing this. We just signed the bill. Because Stacey Abrams was the one who led that effort. So
to gerrymander?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she led the effort to push the bill. She actually pushed for this bill. and the Democrats weren't aware of it. So they assumed that she, as a Democrat, was looking out for their interest. And they didn't realize that actually this proposal was actually going to redistribute the district, which would hurt the votes coming from people of color. It would actually affect it negatively.
So why would she push this, though?
Exactly. So kind of to give you a little bit of context, the redistributing proposal was passed 3 years ago then, so 2015. It's shifting the lines to 17 housing districts in the state legislature. And then proponents of this move had to reshuffle the state assembly districts in the middle of a decade. So the bill is called HB 566. It arrived in the Georgia Senate. Legislators and activists noticed that the maps appear to be redrawn in a deliberate attempt to section off African-American voters in swing districts, entrenching several white Republicans in crucial seats. So the Georgia GOP went on to maintain the majority of the House, as we know, in 2016 elections. And many Democrats saw the districts as too rigged to even save them. And few candidates stepped up to run in question. So that election cycle was actually the highest number of uncontested seats in the nation. So in 2015, the Democrats in the House were led by Abrams, who is now who was running for governor in 2018, right? And they have testified under oath that the gerrymandered maps were presented to Abrams and that she consented to the changes. And that is why the Democratic caucus was instructed to support the measure. So the Democratic caucus wasn't even aware of how bad this was for them. So,
but why?
That's what I'm saying. Because she's pretty much a Republican. Nobody has scrutinized her votes in the legislature. They've only talked about her accomplishments as far as the investigation
post 2018,
and as far as the Republicans, but nobody has scrutinized the way she has voted and the way
where she voted.
If you scrutinize the way she's voted and the way she's acted, it's almost like she's a Republican. So we have here a picture where the guy gives a testimony, and he said, the only person, I might add, there would be Stacey Abrams, minority leader in the House. It wasn't communicated to me that she was in consent with the changes that were being proposed by the Republicans, which is part of the reason it was bipartisan. And so that was another thing that was important in getting everyone's consent, was not to have, as we're seeing with this lawsuit now, a partisan battle over this issue. So it seems like in an effort to elevate herself, she was working bipartisanly. And he says, and so I don't remember if I had discussed that directly with her. I also had an office near her, but it was my understanding that she was also involved and consented to the changes. And the question says, and was she not a representative of any of the districts bordering 111? Is that correct? No, but she was directly involved because her party had targeted this district trying to pick it up. And I think it was important that she consented to the changes. That way there wouldn't be any arguments as we now have in a lawsuit that we did for any political reason. So basically, what is this saying in the next slide, Johnny? The testimony corresponds to what other Democrats serving in the legislature recalled, that Abrams, as leader, endorsed the measure and instructed the caucus to vote for it. Democratic House lawmakers, not knowing that the details of the map would undercut Democratic prospects and African-American voting power, just followed her lead. So she literally did this. She led this entire thing. And it's pretty awful. It's pretty freaking
So it says there's state Senate redistricting in 2011 she voted against.
Yes, exactly.
Congressional redistricting in 2011 she voted against.
Yep.
State House redistricting
so
she voted against as well. So what's going on?
She supported a Republican, apart from all of this that happened in 2015. In 2011, she supported a Republican measure to cut early voting in half, from 45 days to 21 days. So her actual record is in the legislature has been to undermine voting, even though in the media and to everybody, because she attacked Republicans, she was championed as a voting rights activist, so of sorts.
So it sounds like, because her voting is like, for the most part, it seems pretty par for the course for Democrats. However, you're right. It seems like what her main focus was, it was a selfish one. It was to maintain her incumbency.
Right, to maintain her power, exactly.
So she in consolidated.
And she was willing to undermine actual voters to do that, to get the
Yeah.
approval. And I get it. You live in Georgia. It's a Republican state. But at the same time, what she did was actually hurting African-American voters.
Yeah, because in her mind, I would imagine that her district probably wasn't touched. If we go back and look at it, I'm sure that's going to be the case.
Well, it
That was
wasn't her
probably the
district,
trade-off. Yeah, so I'm saying that was probably the trade-off. In her mind, a lot of those seats would not have been flipped, right? Or the Democrats essentially would never have dominance because it's a Georgia legislature. And if they could have had any type of dominance, then it probably would have helped if Stacey Abrams didn't further this or approve of this redistricting. So, but they would have never even known because she approved the redistricting.
Right,
but,
and they believed her, and she led the caucus. So also there.
And if she's running for governor, it doesn't affect her because everybody has to vote for her anyway.
Right, and she ran for and I mean during that time there was so many uncontested seats that actually technically more people could have ran, more progressives, let's say, could have like hopped on there and ran, and they didn't. So it actually is undermining that. And then she also founded the New Georgia Project, which was a group of trying to register hundreds of thousands of voters of color.
Yeah,
and they raised $3.6 million during the 2014 elections, but they paid her $177,500 as a part-time chief executive, and then she was paid $85,000 a year for 15 hours of work a week. And ultimately, the results.
As a chief executive, that's kind of the norm, though. If she founded it,
yeah,
but it's kind of weird. It is if she was actually doing the job, that's different.
Right. The voter registration, though, the results that came out was below of the 2010 elections 4 years prior. So it didn't do anything. So was she really working? We don't know. But that's what I'm like. They have lawsuits now as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty bad. And she also
another careerist.
Yeah. She also pretty much has been undermining and working the Democratic Party in a sense by trying to work with the GOP, and that's not always a bad thing. Bipartisanship isn't always a bad thing, depending on who's doing it, right? And the reasons
and the reason why.
But for me, from this piece, it seems like she was doing it for herself, basically.
Yeah, because if you review a record, she doesn't vote with Republicans normally. And so that kind of is more problematic to me. Because the one time that you decided to work with the Republicans was when you knew you could secure your seat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's almost, I don't know if they had made some type of deal behind the scenes, which is quite likely. And maybe she thought if she played ball with the Republicans in that particular instance, that it would likely maybe make them not cheat in the general for her gubernatorial election. But I just don't understand what she had to gain from, I know exactly what it probably. This is why. If she didn't play ball, they probably would have passed it anyway and would have redistricted her shit to make it more difficult for her to run again. To maintain her incumbency, I mean. At the time, that's the only benefit I can think of. I don't get like what she had to gain other than that. Like it's just silly to undermine the voting process and then like once you run for governor, complain about the voting process.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I agree with your theory, and I also think that again, it was just to secure the fact that she's trying to climb. Because if you recall, when they asked her, "Oh, are you going to run for a VP spot?" she said, "No, I wouldn't run. I would run for president." Like, like that entitlement again of like deserving.
Zero executive experience.
Yeah.
Like you haven't done anything but ran for a state legislature, and you've never really had a chance of passing anything you want because it's dominated by Republicans. So like, our standard has become so low thanks Donald Trump. Like everybody thinks they can be president now.
Yeah, very much.
It's sad. So I wanted to move on to the next topic, and that would be, Where are we going next? Is it the Beto O'Rourke? Is that what we got next?
Yeah.
Cool. So I don't know if you all know this, but Beto O'Rourke had a town hall on Tuesday.
Really?
I did not know.
I didn't know either.
I promise you, I did not know. I did not know until today. And it's sad because the article didn't even get written and published until today. That it's ridiculous that like something happened on Tuesday about Beto O'Rourke, who was supposedly the darling, right? Before Buttigieg came in, he was the darling. Remember, waving his hands everywhere like he don't care because he just knew he had it in the bag. But I told y'all at the time I was making fun of him because I was like, man, this dude is doing pathetically right now. You can believe what you want to about his fundraising numbers, but bundling can be very deceptive. You cannot go from barely raising anything in the first 12 to 15 hours, then we go to sleep and wake up, oh, look, he broke Bernie's record. That's not how fundraising works, especially from the grassroots level. So in this article by Forbes, it said that all in all, CNN viewers would rather watch Don Lemon than Beto O'Rourke. The network's hour-long town hall with the Texas congressman and Democratic presidential candidate drifted to a distant third-place finish in Tuesday night's cable news ratings.
Wow.
And was down significantly from the network's average Tuesday night ratings. According to the ratings data compiled by Nielsen, the O'Rourke Town Hall delivered a total audience of 714,000 viewers, while MSNBC and Fox News Channel both exceeded 2 million viewers in the same time period. 2.196 million for MSNBC and 2.2 million for Fox News. CNN's ratings delivery was down by nearly 30% from its normal average on Tuesday night, where it typically reaches over 1 million.
And he can be Donald Trump?
Yeah, apparently. And the blue will do. Clearly not. O'Rourke even failed to exceed the audience that watched a CNN town hall featuring third-tier candidate John Hickenlooper. Wow.
Really?
Wow.
That's bad.
Wow. That's where we're at? I forgot Hickenlooper was running until just now. The lowest rated town hall event so far this cycle was Julian Castro with 654,000. So right now, Beto has the second worst rated town hall in the entire Democratic primary.
Yeah.
So hold on, we're about to figure this out real quick. I'm gonna find this out. Where is he in the poll right now?
I thought he was polling at 2%.
Is he no for Beto? He's at 2% now.
No, I thought so. Maybe a little bit higher.
On May 11th, he's polling worse than ever. O'Rourke did drop to 2%.
Yeah.
That's why he had to relaunch his campaign.
They constantly ignore Tulsi too in all of these polls, and if they do put her, she's polling at like 2%, but we know she's polling higher because they usually poll only Democrats, and they usually poll people that are just specific people via landlines
and that's what I was going to say, because remember in the beginning Beto was pitched as like the next thing, like he was going to lock it down. That was going to be Bernie's toughest battle, right? He's supposed to be better than Kamala. He was born for this, on the cover of Vanity Fair,
born
born to run. That's what he said. And here's what's interesting. Johnny, can you pull up that graphic for us? I want you all to look at this graphic. And I want you to notice something. Because it isn't just Beto that this is happening to, by the way. Beto O'Rourke, amongst other establishment Democrats, seemingly had these big boosts, right? These big boosts when the mainstream pushes them. Sometimes it's when their candidacy initiates. Sometimes it's when they're trying to find a suitable replacement for the candidate that just they thought was going to be the one, and then they fell. But if you notice something, there are no consistencies amongst the establishment candidate. There's zero.
Yeah.
You see huge spikes from when they first got coverage. By the way, this is retweets in a 14-day period. You see huge spikes whenever the establishment was pushing them. And then you see huge drop-offs after the establishment stops pushing them. And these are the people who are supposed to be the favorites, the one that could beat Trump, right? I guarantee you would never see a drop-off like this from Trump. I mean, it's the unfortunate truth. And for those of you who believe, well, this is just Twitter engagement, what does that have to do with anything? Oh, it has everything to do with it. Like I said time and time again, people. Why do you think Obama pushed the initiative, the social media initiative he did in 2012? Why do you think that Trump won the 2016 presidential election 280 characters at a time? Because the truth of the matter is the narrative, the popular opinions on Twitter, Facebook, social media in general, YouTube, those are more representative, especially in a primary election. Those are more emblematic of outcomes than anything the mainstream is telling you. And that's a fact. Like, why would David Brock go out of his way to try and push the Bernie Bros narrative on Twitter and Facebook? Why would they spend so much money on bots to boost candidates of their choosing? Whenever that's the problem with a lot of their retweets and everything too. We don't even know how many of those retweets and likes and engagement is organic. But if you look at that, if you go back to that graphic, you'll see there are only two consistent candidates that are growing. And there's only two consistent candidates whose engagement makes some type of sense. It's Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard.
Who knew?
What a coincidence. Now, for some reason, like the Beto's at 2% now. But anybody want to explain to me before we even have a debate, before we even have a town hall, that all of a sudden Beto goes from 13% at one point to 2% in 3 weeks? And simultaneously, Buttigieg is now all of a sudden popular. Mind you, I've heard less people talk about and compliment Buttigieg than I've heard talk about Beto. If you can't tell, they're rotating records. Unfortunately, they're playing the same old song. Like, it's ridiculously obvious. And like I said, there's a reason they invest so much in social media. It's ridiculous. Also, there's another graphic, and I covered this earlier today. We don't have it up here, but in a month period, Tulsi Gabbard has the most retweets, only second to Buttigieg, who pays infinitely more money on promoting his stuff. So, like, Tulsi has the most retweets, but somehow she's at 2%. Buttigieg is being pushed, and his retweets are reflecting that. But Tulsi is not being pushed. Even more interesting, Bernie has like 9 million followers. Beto has like 1 million. Senator Warren's presidential page like 3.2 million. Kamala, 3 million. Tulsi has 360,000. And her engagement is more potent than any of the other candidates. Even Bernie, as far as social media is concerned.
As far as Twitter, for sure.
Yeah, definitely on Twitter. So, like, now don't get it twisted. That doesn't mean, like, obviously that Tulsi is more popular than Bernie right now. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that if I wish I had the graphic back up, but I'm gonna do another video about it today. In the top 5 engagements on Twitter, it's Kamala, Buttigieg, Tulsi, Bernie, and Biden, not in that order, and Warren. So top 6. All of those people are in the top 6 in polling, except for Tulsi. Do you see the problem with that?
Yeah, doesn't make sense.
You know what I'm saying? So what do you think? What do you think is going on?
I think these polls are like in 2016, they were excluding Bernie Sanders. They're excluding Tulsi this time around because she is like the leftist threat, constantly talking about the military-industrial complex and against war. And I think that these polls in general only polling Democrats that are super hardcore establishment centrist types. So the majority of their polling is coming from people that are older than the age of 40, and also people that are
Hell,
heavily
older than the age of
centrist.
50.
Yeah. It's
Older
like
than the age of
one of them didn't have anybody under 50, the one that where Bernie was losing to Biden by ridiculous amounts. But now what we're seeing is when they poll more of a wider sample, you see Biden's lead start to dwindle, and you see Bernie's lead or Bernie tied to Biden. But in reality, what I think the polls look more like is Bernie leading, and I think Tulsi is a lot higher than what
100%.
we're showing.
100%. And I think that if you are I don't know why we do have to. I mean, just because you never know who's watching. We got some new people, so if you are new, polls are bullshit for the most part. You still have to look at them because if you know anything about politics, you can still learn from a lie. You can learn who they're targeting, who they're boosting, what their goals are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I put out a tweet yesterday. I said it's likely at this very moment that Tulsi and Warren are actually probably closer to being tied in the polls right now.
Yeah.
Which is why all of a sudden we're seeing a push for Warren that we haven't seen the entire election. Now, people could say, oh, it's because of her strong policies. Yeah, here's the problem with that. What policies? She keeps coming up with these titles for cool pieces of legislation that may, but what intricacies, what details of these policies can anyone describe to me? Miss, I have a plan for that.
The only policy that I thought was detailed was her policy on education, on how she would go about it. Other than that, everything else has been pretty much regurgitating what Bernie Sanders said.
Look, and that sounds amazing, right? It does.
Exactly.
Here's the difference. When Bernie says he wants to introduce something, it gets introduced. Not when he's running for president, but when he's in the Senate doing his damn job. When Tulsi Gabbard wants to introduce something, it gets introduced. She doesn't just say, I want to stop arming terrorists and bolstering terrorists in the Middle East. She introduces legislation to stop them from being funded. When she's talking about climate change, it was already introduced in 2017 before the news was talking about her like that. When she says, I want to address election integrity, she addresses it with legislation. When Bernie says he wants Medicare for all, he addresses it with legislation. Like, I don't care. Oh, I have a plan for that. Okay, where is it? Why haven't you introduced it? What the fuck have you been doing the last 4 years then? What have you been doing the last 4 years?
But her reparations plan is so amazing, Niko.
That we're still waiting to fucking hear the details of. You know, like it's crazy, and we're gonna get into Warren in a second. But my point is, the people who think that Warren is being boosted because of her policies, no, she's being boosted because the mainstream is pretending as if she has offered policies, as many as people are thinking, because they hear a narrative and people just run with it. Remember, Beto was up and coming. Beto may be a problem. Beto's going to cause issues for Trump, for Bernie. Beto's going to lock down the millennial vote. Yeah, how's that working? How do you jump from 12% to 2% in a month? Unless they've been lying the entire time. And that's probably a lot more likely. So I think that it's just about time for Beto. And it's crazy because, Beto isn't even running for office again.
Yeah.
He's not running for a House. He's not running for the Senate. Kamala, same thing.
It's selfish for Beto and someone, let's say Stacey Abrams decides to run because it's like, okay, now you have more Republicans in control just because you want to be president.
Where is Stacey Abrams running?
She's not running yet. Oh, she's
exactly.
in Georgia. But yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But she's not running though.
You're right. No.
She propped herself up, got with CAP to make that money. Mm-hmm. And you can make more money at CAP than you can running for office. Mm-hmm. Like, these people are not in. What were you doing before your name was on that presidential ballot? That's what I'm interested in. And I know that Elizabeth Warren had a chance to stand up to Obama whenever the bailout happened. There was a whole committee that she was in charge of. She knew all the problems with it. What did she do to fight it? What did she do to fight it? Not a damn thing. And she had an entire committee that she was in charge of that could have fought it. And all she did was this. She wagged that finger. She wagged that finger. Oh, you guys. Hey, this has trouble. This could be bad. Okay, this could end badly if you be careful. You mean old bangers, you. You better cut it out. That's what I say. And then what? What did she do? Did she stand up to Obama? Did she critique Obama? No. Okay, cool. I'm glad. She stood up to TPP. When did she stand up to TPP? When she realized that there was not a Democratic or Republican consensus on TPP. So of course it was easy for her to fight against it. It's like, I hate to say it, it's like AOC at this point. When has AOC fought for something that is controversial? Like as of late. Capping interest rates at 15%. Oh my God. That's not controversial. But I can say this about AOC that I can't say about Warren. At least when she wants to get something done, she introduces legislation for it before she's running for president. So the idea that these people like Beto, for example, or even Pete Buttigieg, because he just tried to do a video for, to act like he's in support of $15 minimum wage. Buttigieg, you can't be in support of $15 minimum wage. You said you don't even support policies right now. It's all about the philosophy. It's all about the philosophy. So like these people are claiming, they put, there's a lot of cap going on out here in this legislative streets, if you catch my drift. In other words, there are a lot of people pretending that they were Bernie, pretending that they were Tulsi, pretending that they were progressive, pretending that they've always had these great and powerful ideas. And yet we've never heard them discuss them. There's literally zero receipts before they started running for president, specifically in the case of Pete Buttigieg. That boy got some nerve. So, speaking of Elizabeth Warren,
By the way, she's had more plans. She's had more plans towards her green militarism than on policy than anything else. That's all she's tweeting about right now. That's literally all she's been tweeting about.
Can you bring up that tweet?
Which one?
Tweet, Giant Nose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring it up for me, Johnny. Let me know when it's up there. See?
Okay. Up.
We're up there? Okay, let me pull it up. So there's been this phenomena that we've already discussed at length before, but it's ramping up even more, where progressives are pretending that Elizabeth Warren is progressive, even though all the requirements, which we don't have a lot of them. I really feel like we don't have a lot of requirements to be progressive, right? Don't take corporate money. Speak out against the military-industrial complex. Medicare for all. And don't take fucking corporate money. That's basically it. Like it is actually super simple. Oh, and election integrity. But it's really simple to be a progressive. We give you the blueprint every single day. A bunch of shows talk about it. But apparently, Cenk likes to he's confused. He's not really sure if he's progressive. He's more like prog curious, maybe bi-aggressive a little bit there. Sometimes he wants to be progressive. Sometimes if he gets drunk enough, he'll dabble in neoliberalism, depending on how he feels that night. And he's exemplified that again yesterday with this tweet, or 2 days ago, excuse me. He said, are Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren ever going to call out their Democratic colleagues for taking corporate money and not voting in favor, and voting in favor of those companies against interests of American people? There's a word for that: corruption. If they don't, will anything get passed? Low baby Jesus. There is so much irony in this tweet.
Yeah.
I do not know where to begin. So how about we talk about the fact that just Elizabeth Warren, for example, literally says she's taking corporate money in the general. On his show.
Literally.
Nonetheless.
Yeah.
On his show. Proudly said this. Oh my God. Why do I have to keep repeating
But it doesn't
that?
matter because in the general, we need to do whatever we can to beat Donald Trump. So,
Yeah, because taking corporate money is exactly how to beat Donald Trump.
oh,
Doing
absolutely.
the exact thing that every Democrat has done. Uh, when when has Elizabeth Warren held or asked anybody to be held accountable? Big banks, companies, whatever. When did she ask any of them to be held accountable? A lot of finger wagging. She can't say she voted for progressive or introduced progressive legislation. So, okay, maybe you don't have that type of pull. Maybe you don't have that type of clout. So you can at least ask for people to be held accountable. When does that happen? She had an entire committee to do it. Didn't do it. So, yeah, didn't happen.
He's
Not,
equating her to Bernie Sanders
yeah.
again.
Are
Like,
Bernie are they ever going to call the Democratic colleagues? Jank, out of curiosity, how much money did you take at the end of 2016? How much money was that? 20 million from Katzenberg. Right around the time where y'all just were blue no matter who damn near. Remember how you pushed Beto O'Rourke instead of Senator Hernandez? Remember how you pushed Ro Khanna? How's that working out for you? I really would like to know how TYT can be so painfully silent on Tulsi while simultaneously pretending that Warren is somehow progressive. Where the fuck is this coming from? Man, can you educate me, Fee? Maybe I missed it. Where are the policies at? I'm confused.
it's just her policy declarations that they're talking about. Like, I will do student loan forgiveness. I will get past Medicare for all. I will. But there is really no actual action behind it. Whereas Bernie Sanders and Tulsi are pushing. She was pushing for the Offshore Act, for the Election Integrity Act. Bernie Sanders has been pushing, literally marching with unions, talking to McDonald's workers, talking to getting people, Walmart employees, seats at the table at board meetings. He's actually doing these actions. And the only two people that are speaking out against war are, once again, Bernie Sanders and Tulsi. And also Mike Gravel. Those three,
and Mike Gravel,
by the way. Those three are the only ones. Coincidentally, those three are the ones that are constantly being attacked by people in the establishment. But I think TYT plays a game where they're kind of fair and unbiased. When they're biased against Tulsi is very clear. Even if they interview her, it is very clear. Even when this happens, it is very clear.
And it's messed up because whenever Cenk did his most recent interview with Tulsi, he was basically acknowledging that, like, there was nobody else who was to the left of her in almost any of the issues. And, like, remember when they were talking about when she went to Skid Row? Mm-hmm. And he was like, you didn't see Bernie out there, did you? She was like, she kind of like laughed it off because he was being sarcastic but being serious. Because nobody else has walked on Skid Row to talk to homeless people about their crisis and how they ended up in that situation. Instead of pontificating from behind a damn a podium, waving your hands around and, weaponizing homelessness and using it, politically for, homelessness is bad. I feel so bad for them. How can you empathize with their pain or sympathize with their pain? You haven't even talked to them or tried. It's easy to walk with workers. It's hard to look at the pain in the eyes of people who've never deserved that type of treatment from this damn economic system. And we're still trying to pretend that Warren and Tulsi we're still trying to pretend that Warren's more popular than Tulsi?
Yeah.
No, Warren's more known, but she's known for betraying the entire progressive movement.
They literally are the opposite. I mean, we know what Warren did in 2016 and we know what Tulsi did. And I don't understand, like, how people think, oh, well, that was 2016. No, it still matters because you still see that happening even today. And so when I see people like pushing Warren to elevate her status, there was a retweet I think I talked about on the last show by Brianne Joy Gray, who she was just quoting the article, but the article said, oh, Warren and Bernie Sanders are the only two people that are not taking corporate money. And that's just not the case.
David did the same shit.
It's just not the case.
Really? Well, first of all, there are 3 or 4, technically. It would be Bernie, Tulsi, Gravel, and Warren at this very moment. The difference is there's only 2 who are not taking PAC money. No organized money of an official organization, and that's Tulsi and Gravel. And Tulsi's the only one who's raised enough money to be on the debate stage without taking corporate PAC money, lobbying money of any kind, or regular PAC money, even like union money or anything like that. Still, no, she refuses it. Because unions can get political as well.
Yeah.
She's the only one. She's the only one beholden to no one outside of individual donors, the people. And she's been on TV more often. Obviously, she's there getting smeared. But she's been on there a lot more often. The ratings that they get are much higher when Tulsi Gabbard is on that damn TV screen. They know it. If you go to the comment sections on any Tulsi Gabbard video, any of them, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, any of the Kyle Clinton's videos, Mike, go to anybody's, see if you see bad comments about Tulsi and count them for me.
There'll be like one that's like, have you seen this Jacobin article?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Like I just can't roll my eyes more when I see that anymore.
And so, and if you could elaborate a little bit more too, I wanted to talk about bro, Cenk is asking Bernie and Liz to call out their Democratic colleague, but is Cenk going to call the fact that she's literally trying to boost the military to fight climate change?
No, there's
can
crickets.
You explain to people what Elizabeth Warren just wrote a Medium article about?
Yeah, she's trying to promote imperialism by saying we need to make our military more green, earth-friendly, and that this is how we are going to save our planet and help the environment by investing more money in our military to make sure that our technologies are green. And I just can't fathom how I'll still read some people who are like, oh, well, that's actually good because we need to work with our military to make sure that we have defense, that we're defending our country. Defending our country from what? We're the ones that are literally invading, trying to go to war with Iran, trying to go to a proxy war with Venezuela, literally rising tensions with China.
Mm-hmm.
Blaming Russia for our elections.
He said that Warren will backstab Bernie again. Keep up the good work. Sending love from Sweden. Much love, Gabriel. And we 100% agree. We're waiting for AOC to do the same thing. We've already accepted it at this point. The people who have been paying attention. I'm talking about some of Bernie's most hardcore supporters, because we know we were there, yo. We know a Warren when we see a Warren. We know a Nina when we see a Nina. We know a Tulsi when we see, and we know a Warren when we see a Warren. AOC is more Warren than she has ever been Tulsi or Nina. And those are facts. And I believe Warren is teeing up to use Bernie's image once again to boost herself.
That's exactly what she's doing.
And she thinks that she can catapult herself ahead of Bernie. I think that Warren is actually going to drop after the debates. What do you think? Do you think she's going to boost? Because it's one thing to pretend like you have policies in front of everybody, but it's another thing when 2 people who actually have habits of introducing legislation can go into details and say, yeah, that sounds good, Liz, but A, B, C, D, E, F, and G.
Right. I think Tulsi, when you hear her speak, she has all the facts. She has a really great retention. And she can literally just be like, okay, I did the Offshore Act. I did this. I did that. This is why I'm not I don't think the Green New Deal goes far enough. This is my thing on Medicare for All. Like, she goes through each thing. Bernie Sanders does the same thing. But Elizabeth Warren gets lost in her emotions, especially when she's attacked by, let's say, the Republicans, or when the Republicans come at her. That's why I don't think she'd be a good contender against Donald Trump, because she gets so emotional. And I think Donald Trump would just...
And reactionary.
So reactionary. And I think, actually, I agree, she would drop in the polls. I think we're going to see Tulsi, after the debates, rise. And they're trying so hard to get her not to be on that stage. Like, yeah, which is why,
but they said they've already secured it, though. That's what she told me.
Yeah, but
they've already secured it. So
they're shady. So we just got to keep donating.
They're going to definitely try to keep her off the next ones, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're going to try. But after that first, I think it's over after that. I think that people, at the end of the day, what does Warren get to stand up to? And she's going to stand up and say, guess what, everybody? I kind of support some of the same policies as Bernie. That's her biggest claim to fame at this point.
But I also support imperialism, and literally
every single time.
People need to understand how big that is. How that literally scratches her off the progressive list completely. If she wasn't scratched off yet, that doesn't.
Meanwhile, when Tulsi talks about how people were cheated in 2016, she's the only one who introduced legislation to ensure that not only are the primaries secure, but the entire general election is secure. What is everybody else going to have to say about that? What's Bernie going to have to say about that? Even like, you didn't do anything about it. You literally refused to address it. You absolutely refused to address it and told us to move on.
And when they bring up Russia, and she's going to focus on the Secure Our Elections Act, she's going to look like
she'll say, we can demonize Russia and we can keep pointing fingers at Putin, or we can do something about it. Which I did.
Take the Republican votes. She's already doing that.
I'm the only one who did anything about it, actually. I'm the only one who introduced legislation, not during the presidential primaries when everybody's paying attention and they're looking for solutions. She introduced this in 2017 the first time. Because when I told her, I'm telling you, the conversation that I had with Tulsi in March of 2016, she sat with me, a college student, on the phone with an hour, listening to me detail election integrity issues that we were having on the campaign. And less than a year later, actionable legislation introduced to combat election fraud. What are y'all saying? If you think that Tulsi is going to get on that debate stage and not be a problem for everybody, I don't give a damn what the name is. Everybody is the chickens are going to come home to roost when Tulsi gets on that debate stage. Because when Venezuela gets brought up, who do you think is going to have the most reasonable response? The most educated response? Oh, okay, Tulsi. Who else can speak about what would happen if we went to war with Iran? Oh, that's right, Tulsi. Literally, none of them know enough about any of that stuff to have a legitimate conversation. They'll say, oh, Iran might... They're going to quote whatever the intel community tells them to quote. And then at best, you're going to get a Bernie situation where he says that he doesn't support going to war. But that does us no good when you are constantly falling for the narratives of the intelligence community and the establishment. Tulsi's going to be the first. Tulsi literally was on MSNBC the other day, said, yeah, this isn't just an attempt by the Trump regime to create a reason to go to Iran. Straight up. Straight the fuck up.
Nobody.
Do you understand how real that shit is?
Nobody else is doing that. Nobody. That's why she's like the savage, woke leftist right now. Like, she is giving people that momentum that Bernie gave people in 2016 because she's so outspoken about it. Whereas Bernie's kind of holding it in, thinking that being ill-advised to placate to the centrists, because it is ill-advised. I completely disagree with people advising him to kind of like tone it down. And I get why. I get the thinking behind it, but no. Every single time we have seen success in a candidate is when they go hardcore left. We're not seeing any kind of lukewarm, mediocre, centrist approach ever win. That's not going to win the election.
Not at all. And Trump, I don't know if you would call it hardcore right or hardcore. He did hardcore whatever the fuck he wanted to do, basically. At least he stuck to his damn guns on it. He did a bunch of stupid shit. But it was hardcore, quote unquote, outside of the establishment at the time.
Right.
And he's still, even though he's low key towing the line of the establishment, he's for the most part lockstep with the establishment. He's pretending as if he is not.
Right.
Because that's how popular that position is.
Right.
Like, literally. So, and you all don't know this, but like, the numbers, like the people like in New Hampshire, for example, and New Hampshire's a very libertarian state. It's blue, but it's like super libertarian. Literally, they don't have seatbelt laws there. That's how they're serious about their liberties. They love Tulsi. They love her. Libertarians. People there, when she goes, it's basically any state that has a huge independent population.
They love her.
They love her.
Yeah.
A lot of these states are open primary. And they will, just to make things, because they don't have anybody else to vote for as a Republican. For now. It may get to the point that the Democrats begin to work with the Republican just to run against Trump so they don't vote for Tulsi.
No, that's exactly what they're doing now.
And I guarantee it's going to be Mitt Romney.
They're doing the Stop Bernie movement, and then they're doing they're smearing Tulsi everywhere. And that's what they're doing. Johnny said he has breaking news, by the way.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Modi just won in a landslide election.
I'm not surprised by that. After I heard about the policies he's introducing, this man is introducing Medicare for all. He is introducing affordable housing in the poorest areas, especially and it's actually where the Muslims are most affected. But he supposedly hates Muslims. He's, believe it or not, for people who don't know, because people have their individual beefs with him. But most of it seems contrived and honestly, they're lies and they're based off of lies. Because they claim that Modi is a Hindu fascist. But the party that was in charge before him and the president or the prime minister before him was Hindu as well. And the party that is main opposition to him is also Hindu. Like, they're dominated by Hindus. The thing about Modi is that when he was governor, or they call him like chief minister or something like that, but he was governor of Gujarat. He was a progressive, and he was a threat. And Gujarat's one of the biggest regions in India, and most profitable regions in India. The original dissent that came to Modi, guess who it came from? It came from the fucking Republicans. In 2013, Tulsi actually voted against this legislation. The Republicans tried to introduce legislation to strengthen their ties with the neoliberals who were in power at the time. And they tried to undermine, in this legislation, very specifically, they tried to undermine Modi, specifically in Gujarat, because he was standing up to the Republicans in the imperialist attempt to use evangelicals to buy Christianity amongst the poor and the vulnerable. So he was protecting the poor Muslims and the poor Hindu people from being basically bribed to convert. And so if you know anything about U.S. imperialism and Western imperialism in general, what's the first step?
Yeah, this sounds so much like Venezuela, or this sounds so much like Honduras, or this sounds so much like pretty much every other nation we've done this to by the playbook, the regime change playbook. Yeah.
It's crazy how, whenever I was going down the list, it's like a list of like 17. Yeah. This man is, as far as policy, is more progressive than Bernie and Tulsi is. Like, he's like that. Now, obviously, they need more extreme economic measures. But like, when I'm like, hold on. Now that I think about it, I've never heard anything other than he's a Hindu fascist.
Right.
Or a Hindu nationalist.
Right.
And that's all I've ever heard. Ever. Okay, well, what about his policies? Man, he's a Hindu nationalist. And I'm like,
okay.
Okay. I need more than that. If I say, for example, Trump is very likely a white supremacist. Well, how do I know? First thing he did, introduce a Muslim ban. Second thing he did, try to ban immigrants and took hardline strategies on immigration. Demonize Honduran. Like, you can go down a list of policies that could, you may not agree with it, but I could introduce policy or go over policies that Trump has put forth that may very well mean he could be white supremacist. But every time I ask that about Modi, nobody could give me the answer. So whenever I had Sham on, I had Sham Sharma on, and he told me, yeah, so you want to hear some of the policies? Because he's like, first of all, there's no such thing as a right wing party in India. Literally, they all want Medicare for all. So there's that. But he said the thing is, there may be identitarians, which could possibly be true. But he was like, that Modi actually doesn't fall into that category. And the thing is, he's actually tried to unite both bases, the Muslims and the Christian minority with the Hindu base, to fight back against the establishment. So like a lot of the press, for example, they were getting, flown all over the world on the government's dollar, getting special dinners and all that shit. When Modi came into power, all of it stopped. Because he stopped doing the quid pro quo, and therefore they stopped giving him positive coverage.
So you're saying, Niko, that all of these attacks against Tulsi for supporting, first of all, she wasn't even really involved with Modi.
Yeah, she just.
But all of these attacks about Modi being a Hindu nationalist and anti-Muslim and all these narratives we've been hearing from Western media, you're telling me they're not true?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Oh. That's what it looks like. Yeah,
surprising.
What a surprise. I know. And like I said, at first, because I'm like I'm a very critical person. I'm very skeptical. And I was like, are you sure, man? Everybody got it wrong? And then I thought, oh, shit. Everybody definitely got it wrong on Tulsi, and everybody definitely got it wrong on Bernie the first time. So, yeah, I could see that. If you're going to tell me that the one guy in India and he came from a poor background, by the way.
Of course.
He came from a background different than all the other people who are in power. He's darker than most of the people who are in power.
Of course.
It's like the same patterns. Except for it's even crazier, because like the most obvious thing to me is the moment that our GOP hates you, that's like a big clue to me that, hold on, double back. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, double back. Because it's the same GOP that hates Maduro, the same GOP that hates Fidel, the same GOP that overthrew Mossadegh, the same GOP. When they tell me they hate you, and I got to take a step back, I'm like, hold on, maybe I like this guy now. I don't know. I haven't heard of him before this, but if the GOP hates him, I might love him. And then I'm finding out all these policies you're introducing that benefit everybody. And by the way, consequentially benefit the poorest, which in that area oftentimes is the Muslim community. It's very hard for me to take someone seriously when they say Hindu nationalism, and that's it. I'm not saying that there are no such thing as Hindu nationalists. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if your only argument is Hindu nationalism, I gotta be skeptical if you don't have anything to substantiate that. Because the claims that he pushed violence against X, Y, and Z. Well, how does the Supreme Court, that was where the numbers favor, right? So there's two more judges from the opposition party than there are for his people. They said that Modi had nothing to do with any of the riots whatsoever. And one of the riots had nothing to do with religion at all. So the people who don't even like Modi exonerated him.
Yeah.
So now I got to figure out, okay, why are they going so hard to demonize this man who has done nothing but seemingly want peace for everybody? He's never, every time, I'm like, he's not one of those, there's really good people on both sides. Yeah. He's not one of those. So if somebody wants to tell me, all right, I got all this information, with policies that Modi introduced that hurt Muslims and Christians specifically, or even like tangentially hurt them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you can like pass a crime bill type of situation.
Yeah, let us know, because, Niko, you're going to get a lot of clapback for that. And especially coming from, a lot of Hindu people that are in the movement, they're so they are so anti-Tulsi because of Modi. This narrative just entirely changes everything with facts that you can prove otherwise. And
they call Bernie a communist.
And exactly. And here's the thing, though. When the neocons and the neoliberals agree on something, or you know that there's something up to it. Like, they agree on Maduro, they agree on war, they agree on sanctions. That's when you need to look and say, why? and then you see the connections, which usually results in the fact that the narrative that's been spun to us through our Western media, the pro-imperialist media, is not accurate. So
yeah, and it's crazy because they basically try to paint Modi as Netanyahu. That's what they try to paint him as.
right,
But there's only one. But Netanyahu has all the things that they say
Modi
Modi is
does.
guilty of. Netanyahu has policies.
Yeah.
You know what
Netanyahu.
I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
he's actually a Jewish supremacist.
But why are we not up in arms about Netanyahu? That's because the moment you get up in arms about Netanyahu, you get attacked like Ilhan Omar. And there you go.
You're anti-Semitic. But if you get in arms about Modi, you're not Hindu phobic, because that's what the attacks are based off of. It's phobia of Hindu nationalism. Just like there's a phobia of Jewish nationalism, and you're immediately called anti-Semitic if you have that type of phobia. So why isn't it the same? That's what, like, seriously. And it's because it's all constructed. They're social constructs meant to distract us from the fact that, and I want to be very clear about something. I don't have to give a damn if Trump was a white supremacist. If this man created a clear path to citizenship, if he ended imperialism just because he got tired of white people dying, if he reformed the criminal justice system so that the poorest aren't affected and thereby black people would be far less affected by the criminal justice or the corruption of the criminal justice system, then I don't give a shit. If you pass Medicare for all and you're a racist asshole, I do not care. Be racist. I don't care. If your policies universally help everybody and you're not passing policies specifically to stifle the growth and the prosperity of any particular community, be as racist in your damn room as you want to. I don't care about that. I'm pragmatic. I'm realistic. I know everybody has their biases. I know everybody believes in certain stereotypes. Cool. Don't care. I want to know what those policies do. Aloha Boy Jank issued a 2 debate challenge anyone on what? Yeah, I need to see this, please. Please. Hey, finish that statement, please, so I can figure out what y'all tag me. I don't care what he want to debate me on.
All right,
tag
Niko. We got to wrap this up.
Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up because I got to go too. So, Aloha Boy, DM me. You got my Twitter. We're going to make that happen. That boy's going to get 8 alive. 8 alive. With that being said, people, thank you all so much for tuning into this segment of Progressive Primetime. And of course, I am Niko House. And what's up?
I am Fiorella Isabel. And what, Johnny? Okay, yeah, but what is it? So
What we missed?
So apparently, we just filed 17 new charges against Julian Assange. Just so you know.
What the fuck? Oh, man. Man, we going. I'll cover it later. Oh,
yeah,
man.
cover that later because that's holy shit. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Damn. All right.
That was a great show. I'll see you soon, Niko. Peace out.
Oh yeah, for sure, people. Always remember, find your balance.
Come out.